the gift who spoke the river. The night was darker than ink, yet the river glowed as though it carried starlight in its veins. Villagers often whispered that the River Elorah had a soul, that if one stood silently on its banks at the hour between midnight and dawn, they might hear it speak. Most dismissed this as superstition, an old tale meant to keep children from wandering too close to the waters. But one girl believed. Her name was Aelina, a child of only 12 summers, known in her village not for strength or cunning, but for her unusual gift. She could hear what others could not. The wind, to her, was not mere whistling air. It hummed lullabies. The forest did not simply creak and sigh. It whispered secrets in words no one else could understand. She had always thought of this gift as a burden, something that made her strange and apart. That was until the river spoke to her. It happened on a night when the moon hung low and red, heavy as though it were about to sink into the earth. Aelina stood barefoot on the cool stones of the riverbank, her reflection rippling on the glowing current. She closed her eyes, letting the river's hum enter her ears, and then, clearer than a human voice, the river said, "Child of listening, a gift you are, a gift you bear. My waters run shallow, my heart grows weary. Will you help me, before I fade into silence?" Aelina gasped, stumbling back. The words rang inside her bones, not just her ears. For the first time, her strange ability felt like destiny, not curse. But what could a girl do to save a river? That question would lead her into mysteries deeper than water itself, into an ancient struggle between earth and sky, greed and guardianship, life and silence. The gift who spoke the river would soon learn she was not just a listener. She was the only voice that could awaken what the world was on the verge of losing. The next morning, Aelina woke before dawn, the river's words still echoing in her mind. She sat up in her straw bed, heart racing, trying to convince herself it had been a dream. And yet, the pull of the river was too strong to ignore. She had grown up hearing stories about Elorah, the sacred river that gave life to their fields, their animals, their very breath. It fed the land and carried songs of the old gods, or so the elders said. But now, if the river itself was asking for help, Aelina wrapped herself in her woolen shawl and crept outside. The village of Dareth still slept. Smoke curled faintly from dying hearths, and dogs snored in alleyways. She padded across the dirt path, bare feet making no sound, until the whisper of rushing water called her closer. The river was different in daylight, silver and strong, swollen with snow melt from the mountains. Children usually played at its edges. Fishermen cast their nets. Women came with baskets of laundry. But Aelina saw what no one else did. The glow beneath the surface was dimmer than it had been the night before. She stepped closer, kneeling on the stones. "River Elorah," she whispered. For a moment, there was only the steady rush of current. Then, like a breath sliding into her mind, came the reply. "Child of listening, you have heard me. The time is thin. My veins are breaking. My breath is stolen. If I fall silent, so too will the world around me." Aelina clutched her shawl. How can I help you? I am just a girl." The waters shimmered faintly, and the river's voice deepened, like thunder rolling far away. "A gift you are, not just a child. There is a wound carved into me, and it bleeds. To heal me, you must journey where the mountains kiss the sky. Find the keeper of stones. Only they hold the key to bind my song again." Aelina swallowed hard. The mountains? No child of her age traveled so far, and certainly not alone. But the river's words carried weight, and something inside her chest, like an ember waiting to ignite, told her this was not just for the river. This was for all life in Dareth. She rose to her feet. "Then I will go." The river whispered gently, almost like laughter. "You are braver than you know. Take care, little one. Darkness stirs, and not all wish me to flow." Aelina turned back toward her village, a storm of thoughts in her head. How could she explain this to her mother? Or to the elders who dismissed her voice as fanciful? No one would believe her. Yet she remembered the glow of the river, the tremor in its tone. If she did nothing, the river would fade, and with it, the life of her people. Her gift had never asked anything of her before. Now it demanded everything, and she would answer. Aelina spent the rest of the day torn between fear and determination. She tried to help her mother grind herbs, fetch water, and tend to the chickens, but her mind was never in the tasks. Every sound of running water reminded her of the river's plea. Every whisper of wind seemed to nudge her forward. By dusk, she had decided she would leave before dawn. The mountains that kissed the sky lay to the north, beyond thick forests and dangerous valleys. No one in the village traveled there without a caravan. Wolves roamed, and bandits sometimes stalked the trade routes. Yet, what was the danger compared to the silence of a dying river? That night, Aelina quietly packed a small bundle, a piece of bread, a flask for water, her mother's old scarf, and a smooth river stone she often carried for comfort. She kissed her sleeping mother's forehead, whispered a trembling apology, and slipped away into the night. The village grew smaller behind her, torches fading like distant stars. The path ahead was long, and already the dark forest loomed, but her heart beat with purpose. The first night was the hardest. Strange cries echoed from the trees, and shadows shifted as though alive. Aelina's feet ached, and the cold seeped through her shawl. She almost turned back a dozen times. But each time, she pressed the stone in her palm and remembered the river's voice. If I fall silent, so too will the world around me. She pressed forward. By dawn, the forest opened to a clearing where a brook joined the main river. She knelt to drink, and as the cool water touched her lips, the brook spoke, not in words, but in a faint hum she could just barely understand. Sister Elorah has sent you. Hurry, child. Hurry. Aelina's eyes widened. She was not just hearing the great river, but even its smallest veins. The gift within her was stronger than she had ever realized. She had not traveled long when she heard a rustle behind her. Whipping around, she gasped. A boy, perhaps 2 years older than she, stepped from the trees. His clothes were ragged, his hair wild, and his eyes sharp as a fox's. In his hand was a wooden staff, carved with strange markings. "What are you doing out here, little sparrow?" he asked, voice laced with amusement. "I'm not a sparrow," Aelina replied, clutching her bundle tight. "And I'm on a journey. A very important one." The boy tilted his head. "Alone? Through these woods? You'll be eaten before the second night." "I'll manage." The boy studied her for a moment, then smirked. "Brave or foolish? Maybe both. My name's Kale, and since I know these paths better than you, perhaps I'll walk with you. Unless you'd rather face the wolves alone." Aelina hesitated. She didn't trust him, not yet. But something in his eyes, a flicker of honesty beneath the mischief, made her nod.
"Fine.
But only if you don't slow me down." Kale laughed. "Me? Slow? You'll see, Sparrow. I fly faster than you think." And so, Aelina found her first companion. That evening, as they sat by a small fire Kale had skillfully built, Aelina dared to tell him the truth about the river's voice, its plea, and the keeper of stones. To her surprise, Kale did not laugh. His expression grew serious, almost wary. "My grandmother used to tell stories of the keeper," he said. "They say the keeper guards secrets older than the mountains themselves. If the river truly sent you, then your journey is more dangerous than wolves." "What do you mean?" Aelina asked. Kale glanced toward the dark trees, his voice low. "Because there are others who would rather the river die. And if you carry its hope, they will come for you." The fire popped, sending sparks into the night. Aelina shivered, pulling her shawl tighter. For the first time, she wondered if the river had truly given her a gift, or a curse that would lead her into the jaws of enemies she could not yet imagine. But it was too late to turn back. The river had chosen her. The forest grew denser with every step. Branches knotted overhead like twisted arms, shutting out the sun until only threads of light reached the mossy ground. Aelina clutched her bundle close, her breath shallow. Even Kale, who had walked with confidence, grew quieter.
The air changed.
It was heavier, thicker, as if the trees themselves held their breath. Aelina slowed. She could hear something, a murmur too faint for most ears. She tilted her head, listening. Not the song of birds. Not the sigh of the wind. It was a whisper. She carries the gift. Aelina froze. Cale, she whispered, tugging his sleeve. Do you hear that? Cale frowned. Hear what? The voices. He shook his head, but his grip tightened on his staff. Stay close. The whispers grew louder. Shadows rippled across the path, shapes that were not shaped like animals. They stretched long and crooked, moving against the direction of the firelight. Aelina's skin prickled. Out of the shadows stepped figures. Their bodies were thin, almost hollow, as though carved from smoke and bone. Their eyes glowed faintly green, their mouths curled in smiles too wide. Little river child, one hissed. The gift walks. The river clings, but we will drink it dry. Aelina's heart slammed against her chest. She stumbled back, clutching her stone. Cale, what are they? Cale's jaw clenched. Nightborn.
I've heard of them.
Spirits born of greed and rot. They feed on what should never die. He raised his staff. Stay behind me. But the Nightborn moved fast, sliding across the ground like mist. One darted forward, its clawed hand outstretched. Aelina screamed. Then the stone in her palm burned hot. Light burst from her hand, striking the creature. It shrieked, retreating into the shadows. The others hissed, circling, wary now. Cale glanced at her, astonished. What did you do? I don't know. Aelina stammered, her hand trembling. The stone did answered. The Nightborn hissed again, their voices overlapping like 1,000 whispers. The gift must break. One lunged again, but Cale swung his staff, striking it across the head. The creature dissolved into smoke with a howl. Run, he shouted. They bolted through the trees, branches whipping at their faces. The shadows followed, shrieking and hissing, until at last the trees thinned and the forest gave way to open ground. The Nightborn halted at the border, hissing, unable to cross where moonlight fell full. Breathless, Aelina collapsed onto the grass, clutching her stone. The heat had faded, but the hum remained, steady and alive. She whispered, It protected me. Cale dropped beside her, chest heaving. Or you protected it. Whatever that stone is, Sparrow, it's no ordinary rock. Aelina gazed at the glowing river below the hill. It shimmered faintly, as though relieved she had survived. The river gave me this, she whispered. Maybe it's more than a gift. Maybe it's a promise. Cale looked at her, eyes serious now. Then we'd better keep it safe. Because if the Nightborn want it, they won't stop. For the first time, Aelina realized the river's warning had been true. Darkness stirred, and it had already found her. But she also realized something else. She was not helpless. Her gift was stronger than she had ever imagined. Strong enough, perhaps, to carry her to the Keeper of Stones. Strong enough, maybe, to save the river. The night after the attack was long and restless. Aelina and Cale made a small fire near the river's edge, but neither found comfort in its warmth. Every crack of a twig, every rustle in the grass made them flinch, half expecting the Nightborn to return. When dawn finally came, it spilled gold across the land, pushing the shadows back. Aelina sat on a rock, the stone in her hand, staring at the river's surface. She could still feel its faint pulse, like a heartbeat that matched her own. Why me? She whispered aloud. Why did the river choose me? The waters shimmered faintly, but did not answer this time. Cale joined her, chewing on a strip of dried meat. Maybe because you listen. Most people don't. He shrugged. My grandmother used to say the world sings all the time, but only a rare few hear the melody. Maybe you're one of them. Aelina looked at him in surprise. For someone who teased her so often, Cale's words carried more wisdom than she expected. They followed the river north, climbing hills and weaving through narrow valleys. By midday, clouds had gathered, and a fine drizzle wet their faces. The path became slippery, but Aelina pressed forward, determined. At last, The forest gave way to a stony plain. Rising in the distance were the mountains, sharp peaks piercing the clouds, their crowns lost in mist. Aelina felt a rush of awe. "The mountains that kiss the sky," she whispered. But Cale frowned. "We can't climb them blind. The keeper's home won't just be waiting on the trail. If the stories are true, they test anyone who dares seek them." As if summoned by his words, a figure appeared. At first, Aelina thought it was only a shepherd, standing by a crooked staff on the rocky slope. But as they drew closer, she saw the figure was unlike any person she had ever met. Their cloak was woven of river reeds, their hair streaked silver like flowing water, and their eyes gleamed with the same glow she had seen in Elorah's current. The stranger raised a hand. "You carry the river stone." Aelina froze, clutching the stone in her palm. Who are you?" "I am neither friend nor foe," the figure said. "I am the keeper's herald. Those who seek the keeper must first prove they are worthy. Speak, child of listening. Why have you come?" Aelina swallowed hard. "The river called to me. It said its veins were breaking, its heart fading. I promised I would help." The herald's gaze softened. "A promise to the river is a promise to all life. But words are light as wind. To reach the keeper, you must pass the trial of stone." Cale stepped forward, wary. "And what trial is that?" The herald tapped the ground with their staff. The earth trembled. Stones rose from the plain, shifting and grinding until they formed a circle around Aelina and Cale. "You must face what you fear most," the herald intoned. "Only then will the path to the keeper open." The stones glowed, and before Aelina's eyes, the world blurred. She no longer stood on the plain but in her village, flames devouring the rooftops. Her mother's voice screamed in the distance. Villagers ran, clutching empty buckets, but the riverbed was dry, its waters gone. The nightborn prowled freely, their whispers like laughter. Aelina's chest tightened. "No, this isn't real." But the herald's voice echoed faintly. "Fear is a shadow, yet shadows wound as surely as blades." One of the nightborn turned toward her mother's hut. Aelina screamed and ran forward, clutching her stone. The heat rose in her palm again, a blinding light bursting forth. She hurled it at the creature, striking it down. But more appeared, too many. Her knees buckled. "I can't. I'm not strong enough." And then, through the roar of fear, she heard it, the faint song of the river. Not desperate this time, but steady. "Child of listening, you are not alone." The light surged within her, not from the stone but from herself. She rose, lifting her hands. Light poured outward in waves, scattering the nightborn like smoke on the wind. The flames dimmed, the river surged back into its bed, and the village breathed again. The vision faded. She stood once more in the stone circle, trembling but unbroken. The herald bowed slightly. "You faced despair, and still you rose. The keeper will see you." The stones sank back into the earth, revealing a narrow path that wound up the mountain. Mist curled around its edges, glowing faintly. Cale let out a long breath. "Remind me never to doubt you again, Sparrow." Aelina smiled weakly, though her knees still shook. She had passed the trial. But she knew the hardest part was still ahead. The keeper waited. The climb was harder than Aelina had imagined. The path was steep, the air thin, and mist clung to her like a second skin. Each step made her legs ache, but the pull of the river's voice urged her onward. Cale walked ahead, steady and confident, though even he grew silent as the mountain silence pressed down on them. At last, they reached a plateau. Aelina stumbled onto it, panting, and froze. Before them rose a vast stone arch, carved not by human hands, but by time itself. Vines clung to it, glowing faintly with veins of crystal. Beyond the arch lay a cavern mouth, dark yet alive with a low hum that echoed like a heartbeat. Cale let out a low whistle. "If this isn't the keeper's place, I don't know what is." Aelina swallowed her nerves and stepped forward. The stone in her palm warmed, pulsing in rhythm with the cavern's hum. She could feel it guiding her, urging her inward. They passed through the arch, and the world changed. Inside, the cavern was lit by rivers of light flowing through the stone walls. Crystals jutted from the ground like frozen flames, glowing with colors that shifted as they breathed. The air was warm and heavy, filled with a presence that made Aelina's chest tighten. Then the ground trembled. From the shadows at the cavern's heart, a figure emerged. Not quite human, not quite stone. Its body was carved of rock and crystal, its eyes twin pools of molten gold. It stood taller than 3 men, its voice rolling like thunder across the mountainside. "I am the Keeper Stones." Aelina bowed her head, her heart pounding. "Great Keeper, the River Elorah sent me. It says its veins are breaking, its heart fading. I came to ask, how can I save it?" The Keeper's eyes glowed brighter. "The river speaks true. Its lifeblood is being drained. Not by time, not by nature, but by hands that crave power." Cale stiffened. "Who?" The Keeper's gaze shifted to him, then back to Aelina. "A man who calls himself Lord Vanar. He builds dams and forges, chaining the river to turn its strength into weapons. Each day, the river weakens. Each day, darkness grows stronger." Aelina's stomach nodded. "The Nightborn? They are his servants," the Keeper rumbled. "Born from the shadows of greed. Where the river dies, they thrive." Aelina clutched her stone. "Then tell me, how do I stop him?" The Keeper studied her for a long moment. "Child of listening, you bear not just a gift, but a burden. The river chose you because you can hear its true song. With that song, you can awaken the ancient bond between water and stone. Together, they can break Vanar's chains." He reached out one massive hand, lowering it until his palm was level with her head. From the crystals in his chest, a shard broke free, floating toward her. It hovered above her stone, then sank into it, fusing with a burst of light. The stone glowed brighter than ever, humming in her hand like a living heart. Aelina gasped as the Keeper's voice filled her mind. "This is the Stone of Resonance. With it, you can call the river's strength. But beware, its power is not for conquest. It answers only truth. Should you falter, it will shatter." Aelina held the glowing stone to her chest, awed and afraid all at once. The Keeper's voice softened. "You will face Vanar soon. Remember this. Rivers do not fight by striking. They endure, they shape, they wear down stone until only truth remains. Be the river." The cavern grew still. Slowly, the Keeper's form began to fade, sinking back into the mountain as if he had never been. His voice lingered one last time. "The river flows through you now. Guard it well." Silence fell. The glow of the crystals dimmed, leaving only the faint shimmer of the Stone of Resonance in Aelina's hand. Cale placed a hand on her shoulder. His eyes, usually sharp and mocking, were filled with something else now: respect. "Well, Sparrow," he said softly, "looks like you're more than just a listener. You're a river's voice." Aelina looked down at the glowing stone, her heart steady despite the fear. She had come seeking answers. Now she carried a weapon, not of destruction, but of truth. And with it, she would face Lord Vanar. The descent from the mountains was quicker than the climb, but every step carried weight. Aelina felt the hum of the Stone of Resonance against her chest, steady as a heartbeat. It filled her with both courage and dread. She had sought to save the river. Now she carried its strength within her. Cale walked beside her, unusually silent. When she finally asked what troubled him, he only muttered, "I've heard of Vanar's fortress. They say it was built with stolen labor, and that he drowns anyone who dares defy him. If that's true, we'll need more than courage." The days that followed were harsh. The land grew drier, the grass brittle, the air heavy with smoke. Streams ran shallow, their songs weak and tired. Even Aelina struggled to hear their voices. The closer they came to Vanar's domain, the more the world seemed starved. At last, they reached a ridge that overlooked the valley. Aelina gasped. Below lay a fortress of black stone, its walls towering like cliffs. The river ran directly into it, choked by a massive dam of iron and stone. Beyond the walls, smoke rose from furnaces, staining the sky. Workers dragged carts while guards patrolled with blades at their sides. Kale spat into the dust. So this is what greed builds. Aelina's hands tightened around the stone. The river's voice here was faint, strangled. Its song, once bright, was now a low, broken moan. "We have to free it," she whispered. They waited until night. Then, under cover of darkness, they slipped down the ridge, hugging the shadows. Kale moved with the skill of a fox, guiding them through gaps in the patrols until they reached the dam itself. The river thrashed behind it, trapped and furious, its glow dimmed to a faint flicker. Aelina pressed her hand to the stone wall, closing her eyes. The river's voice flooded her mind. Pain, exhaustion, desperation. "Help me before I am gone." Suddenly, torches flared. "Thieves," a harsh voice growled. Aelina and Kale spun around. From the shadows, armored soldiers emerged, blades drawn. And at their centers stood a man cloaked in black, his face sharp and proud, his eyes burning with ambition. Lord Vanar. Well, he sneered. "So, the river sends children now? How quaint." Aelina lifted her chin, her fear hidden behind trembling hands. "You're killing it. You're killing everything." Vanar laughed, the sound sharp as steel. "Killing? No, girl, I am harnessing it. The river's power is wasted on fields and songs. With it, I can forge weapons, armies, empires. The world will kneel to me, and the river will flow only where I command." The Nightborn appeared behind him, writhing in the shadows, their whispers like a chorus of hunger. They hissed when they saw the stone in Aelina's hand. Vanar's smile hardened. "And you carry the river's last defense. Give me the stone, child, and I may let you live." Aelina's heart thundered. She remembered the keeper's words. Be the river. Rivers did not yield. Rivers cut through mountains with patience and strength. "No," she said, her voice steady. "The river is not yours to chain." The stone of resonance flared in her palm. Light burst outward, scattering the Nightborn. Soldiers shielded their eyes. Vanar staggered back, rage twisting his features. "Foolish child," he roared. "Do you think light will break stone and iron?" He raised his hand, and the dam rumbled, chains tightening as if to strangle the river further. Aelina cried out as the river's voice shrieked in her mind. Kale grabbed her arm. "Sparrow, now. Use the stone." Aelina lifted the stone high, her voice trembling but strong. "Elorah, sing with me." The river answered. Its glow surged, breaking through the cracks in the dam. Water roared, straining against its chains. The stone in her hand pulsed, and she sang. Not words she knew, but a melody that flowed from deep within her, the song of the river itself. Light and water twined together, striking the dam. Iron shrieked, stone cracked. Soldiers scattered in panic. The Nightborn screamed as the glow seared them into nothingness. Vanar stumbled back, shielding his face.
"No.
I am master here. I command you." But the river did not listen to him. With a final cry, Aelina thrust the stone forward. The dam shattered. Water exploded through the fortress, surging free, tearing down walls and towers. The roar was deafening, a flood of light and power reclaiming its course. Vanar was swept away, his scream drowned beneath the torrent. The Nightborn dissolved into mist. The soldiers fled, powerless. And then, silence. Aelina collapsed to her knees, soaked, trembling. The stone dimmed in her palm, its task complete. She could hear the river again, clear, strong, alive. "Thank you, child of listening. You have set me free." Kale dropped beside her, dripping wet but grinning. "Well, Sparrow, remind me never to cross you." Aelina laughed weakly, tears mingling with the river's spray. She had faced Lord Vanar and prevailed, not with strength or weapons, but with a gift she once thought a curse. But she knew her journey was not finished yet. For though Vanar was gone, The river's song was fragile, and the world still needed voices who would listen. And she, the gift who spoke the river, would never stop listening. The summit was alive with storm and silence. Above the world, where the mountain touched the clouds, Aelina stood at the edge of the stone circle the keeper had described. The Nightborn swarmed behind her like a living tide, their whispers sharp as knives. Cale limped at her side, gripping his staff though blood stained his sleeve. "Sparrow," he breathed, "this is it. Whatever you're meant to do, do it now." The stone in Aelina's hands pulsed like a heartbeat. It hummed louder than ever before, so strong that it made her bones vibrate. She stepped forward into the circle. The carved runes lit up beneath her feet, one by one, in a pattern older than words. The Nightborn shrieked, unable to cross the circle. Yet their voices filled the air, choking it. "Break it, child. The gift is too heavy. Cast it away, and you will be free." Aelina's knees buckled. For a heartbeat, she wanted to listen, to throw the stone down and walk away. But then she remembered the river's song, gentle and endless, speaking not just to her, but through her. She remembered its cool embrace, its trust. She remembered the villages that drank its waters, the fields that bloomed because of it. "No," she whispered. Her voice shook, but did not break. "I won't let you wither. I won't let you die." She lifted the stone high above her head. The storm broke. Lightning split the sky. The stone blazed so bright that even the shadows flinched. Then, with a cry that came from her soul, Aelina drove the stone into the center of the circle. The mountain trembled. Light burst outward in a wave, rolling down the peaks, across the forests, into the valleys. The Nightborn screamed as the light touched them, then scattered into dust, dissolved like smoke in wind. Their whispers were silenced forever. And then, silence. The light faded into a steady glow, and from the stone flowed water, clear and endless, streaming into channels carved by time itself. It rushed down the mountainside, joining with the river below, stronger and purer than before. Aelina collapsed, gasping, her hands trembling. But she was smiling. For the first time, she heard not just the river's murmur, but its true voice. "Child of the waters, you have kept the promise. You are no longer just a listener. You are the river's keeper." Tears blurred her eyes. She bowed her head. "I only did what you asked, what you needed." Cale knelt beside her, resting a steady hand on her shoulder. His voice was hoarse, but his smile was proud. "You did more than that, Sparrow. You gave back life. And you faced what no one else could." They sat together on the summit, watching as the reborn river wound its way through the world, shining like a ribbon of light. It sang in every drop, a song of renewal, of gratitude. Aelina knew she would never hear silence again, for the river would always speak to her, and through her. And though she was only a girl, she was now also something more. A guardian, a bridge, a gift given back to the world. The journey had ended, but her story had just begun.